What's up, folks? I'm Odd, by the way. I had a thought for a drawing that I figured would be fun. I have these two older characters. One I've redrawn recently in a speed paint, my little alien satellite, and a ghost that I now typically call Bog because at some point I misspelled Bogart and I just kind of kept it that way. I got the idea to doodle them together because it's like kind of seasonally sound, right? They're also both kind of vaguely cat-shaped creatures with big ears and limited expressions, and like a cult origin of some kind. They're an alien and a ghost. I thought that they'd make good friends. So along with redrawing Bog's design, I decided to make a little spread of them interacting. I thought, because I didn't have much else to say other than like what's in the drawing, I would do another speed paint and story time but with job stories. Totally relevant. I already did a spooky one, I guess, so what's scarier than customer service? Actually, not all of these are customer service, but most of them are. I've only had like 3 jobs in my adult life so far, and 2 were technically customer service. My first job was in the summer of 2020, right about when COVID was at its peak. I got picked up by a certain familiar orange-themed home improvement franchise. And like, listen, I can get how their commercial theme slaps, but the first like week of training is videos with that exact same song playing every single time. It still makes me a little twitchy. I was in order fulfillment though. Basically, I put together and stored online orders for curbside pickup, which was obviously gaining popularity at the time. It was stressful. I don't mind physical labor, and I got the job thinking perhaps I could just do the orders because I did not feel confident in doing any customer service. Of course, my first day, I was also given a full-length apron, which the order fulfillment folks were just supposed to wear a waist apron so that they weren't bothered, because if you've ever been there, you probably know that the people dressed in orange aprons are expected to know the department they're in. Lumber was the worst for this. If you ever go into these stores and think, God, there's no one in lumber, there's not! There's never is! I swear, there were like 3 people there tops. Only one was trained to use the saw, and they'd all go on break at the same time. You're not crazy. I don't really have a direct story for this job. There were some little bits, but yeah, overall, like, it was just kind of work, I guess. There's just kind of a lot of monotony going on there and some stupid customers. Like, one time, there was a guy obviously trying to return a door that he did not actually buy using someone else's receipt, and he tried to get all uppity with the customer service desk and tell them, I'm manager, you probably know the one, absolutely destroyed him. It was beautiful. After running out my seasonal job there, my neighbor actually got a job managing a front desk at a hotel. I thought about going into hospitality before, and I figured a bit of nepotism would probably be my only real opportunity to get into it. Surely hospitality was about the same or better than customer service. Yeah, I lasted there for about 2 months. This was still pretty peak COVID, but when things were opening back up, and they were trying to get to pre-COVID capacity with mid-COVID staffing. I didn't say it was a good job. But that's kind of beside the point. I was working the front desk, and on the morning shift this particular day, and one morning, I get a call asking to make a reservation for the night. Not unusual, but already she sounded distant. As she's making a reservation, she also asked me to confirm twice that we're not affiliated with like 2 big hotel chain brands. I think it was like Hilton and like Marriott or something like that. It was like, we weren't. This was a local chain. But despite the kind of weird vibe from the phone call, everything else kind of proceeded as normal, and she booked her room. Less than an hour later, however, a woman comes up to the front desk. Reminder, this was the morning shift. She has to check in, and I have to tell her that this is at 4 p.m. I recognize her voice. She's the lady from the phone call. She has this kind of lost look on her face and goes like, "Oh, what time is it?" It was 10 a.m. She kind of wanders off to the attached restaurant side for a little while, and this is when I tell my coworker that this was, in fact, the lady that I had gotten my weird phone call from. And my god, would it only get weirder, because she came back. This time, though, she doesn't come up to me, but to my coworker, and she asks why her card was charged. Coworker diligently explains the whole deposit thing we have, making sure the card can be charged, basically acting as sort of a security deposit that she'd get back at the end of her stay, yada yada yada. And she just immediately cancels the booking. We had the 24-hour cancellation fee thing, but my coworker and I kind of shared a telepathic moment of not wanting to deal with that, so she just waived it. Then the woman at the front desk asked to talk to the manager in private. I actively went back there and asked if he wanted to be there, because I had a feeling, from the moment of the phone call really, but especially in this moment, it was gonna get a little worse. He says sure, and they're back in his office for a good few minutes before she finally leaves and he steps out looking speechless. First words out of his mouth were, oh, she's crazy. Apparently, she had told him that he should be careful because I, at least we think she was referring to me, was a former government agent and was in the woman's bathroom with a radio telling someone, I don't know if it was the government or just some rando, her personal information. She said it was a common scam called telecomming. I even looked it up, and telecommunications came up as a result, and that's totally different, and there was nothing along the lines of what she was saying. And of course, just generally nothing that she said was true. Need I remind you, the manager was my neighbor. Not that he had any reason to believe it, but even if we're not close, he has some idea of who I am, and that idea is definitely not former government agent. Maybe it was my hair? I'm assuming that she was in a bad headspace, maybe off medication or just coming into some sort of paranoid breakdown. She'd obviously assumed the bigger hotel chains were in on this, or at least that's what I pieced together based off of that phone call that she gave me. Despite her voice feeling off, though, she wasn't incoherent. I mean, she scheduled a room. She went through that process perfectly well. I've met some people deep in the throes of mental health or drug problems, and they're rarely that almost put together. I do hope she's okay now. I will say, though, that interaction aside, that was confusing, but overall fine. But with my whole chest, if I can help it, I will never work hospitality again. That job made me cry. More than once. My last stories come from my most recent job. I took a seasonal job through the city, working maintenance at an urban park. Of the 3 jobs I've had in, my life so far, this was definitely the most enjoyable. Was I cleaning bathrooms and trash? Yes, but it was in a park! We got to drive these little go-karts around, and I got to choose how much I interacted with any of the park goers. Hard work, though. I also got sick a lot near the end of my season in winter. Like with my first job, I don't have one wild single story, but I have some small ones. We had a regular. The park, being right in the city center, was home to a lot of homeless people. Generally, we kept up a good rapport with them. I mean, they're just enjoying the park too, after all. The only time they weren't supposed to just exist there was when it was closed, just like any other person, and obviously any other illegal activity wasn't allowed. That's par for the course. The regular, though, called me sister in a thick Eastern European accent and was generally kinda not there otherwise. The one time, he told me about how he and his mother had moved to the States, and that she had trouble getting treated for an illness because she couldn't speak English, which was heart-wrenching. Then he came on to me, so that kind of ruined the moment. He also came up to me once asking a question, I assume in Russian at this point, And I freaked out for a moment thinking that I was just not able to understand him, like either he was speaking gibberish or I had suddenly had a stroke. And he suddenly just goes, "Wait, you speak English!" then proceeds to ask for the park's address. Then of course there were the customers. This park, along with being an open area with playgrounds and stuff, standard park, had attractions, mainly a carousel and an outdoor skate rink that got flooded in the winter to make it an ice rink. During their peak seasons, the attractions would close pretty late, like 9 p.m., and maintenance, my shift, ended at 10. We also had to clean the bathrooms of the attractions. You can see how this was weird. This usually meant that we'd opt to kind of sneak in early to close bathrooms for cleaning right at closing time. I mean, people usually took their time to file out, and that usually included using the restroom. One night, in which the park was pretty dead beside the ice rink, it was midwinter, I went into the bathroom to use it before waiting on the customers to clear the bathroom long enough and put up the sign. As I'm in the stall, I smell something familiar, and I know that's a bad thing to hear in a bathroom, but it wasn't that. No. Where I live, weed, the devil's lettuce, is legal, at least when you're 21 and inside of your own home. I don't partake, don't really like it, but I know people who do, and I know what a vaporizer smells like. It's a very chemical-y smell, and that was exactly what I recognized. When I step out, there are teen girls by the sink area. Now, I don't see anything, but it's not like it's an impossible puzzle to piece together. I kind of brushed it off though, because again, I didn't see them smoke. But when I went back to kind of wait with a coworker, I mentioned offhandedly that it seemed like somebody had been smoking in there. But there was this younger boy waiting for the girls, and as they came out, I think he told them that I knew, or he texted them or something. Suddenly, one girl is freaked out, asking reception if there are cameras in the bathroom, implying there are cameras in the bathroom, yelling at people. There are not. She still runs off in a tizzy, kind of making and apparently later at some point she tried to pawn a big bag of weed off on random people at the rink. The Rangers are called at this point, and it's a big ordeal. Her friend, still there, explains that they got it from her cousin. Just a shot in the dark here, but I'm going to assume that this was her first time, or at least her first time smoking that much, and she got incredibly paranoid. Words of advice: maybe don't take mind-altering substances when your brain isn't developed fully. And even if you do and can't be moved by that, or even if you're an adult, maybe just don't take a lot for the first time in an unfamiliar public place. You are going to have a bad time. So, fun job. I don't know if I'm going to reapply, which is funny because when my season ended, I said, like, see you in 3 months, and right now it's been a little more than 3 months, so it's feeling a little, and they never saw her again. It's cool, though. It doesn't need to be exactly 3 months. And they never saw her again. But those are my work stories, and my little spread page of Bog and Satellite being little friends. Make sure to give this video a like if you liked it, and subscribe. I do a lot of fun art challenges and the occasional Speedpaint Storytime like this. Otherwise, I'll see y'all next time.